Students, title of today's lecture is Atomic Force Microscope. In short, Atomic Force Microscope is also known as AFM. AFM is actually part of SPM family. SPM means scanning probe microscope. You already know what is scanning probe microscope. Just in the beginning, for a few seconds, we will talk about SPMs and then we will start our discussion about atomic force microscope. You know, SPMs are actually family of instruments which are used to study the surface properties of materials from atomic to micron level. In SPMs, a fine probe tip, very sharp probe tip, scans the sample surface just like this. And when it is scanning the sample surface, it interacts with the sample at each and every point. And if we have some information about the type of interactions which are taking place between tip and sample surface and the degree of those interactions, then this information can be utilized to study the local properties of solid body surfaces. You know that out of many SPMs, two SPMs are the most popular SPMs. One is scanning tunneling microscope, which we discussed in the previous video lecture, and you know that this SPM works on the principle of carrier tunneling. Today we are going to discuss about atomic force microscope. The working principle of AFM is van der Waals interactions which takes place between the probe tip and the sample surface. The lecture is organized like this. In the beginning, we will talk about the working principle of AFM. Then detection mechanism in AFM. You know that van der Waals interactions takes place between tip and sample surface. We need to detect those interactions, and for that purpose we will use the optical method. So the optical method will be utilized to detect the van der Waals interactions, means how strong interactions are taking place. And then we will talk about the block diagram of AFM instrument. We will also study the various modes of operation of AFM. So first, let's talk about the working principle. Now, you know, van der Waals interactions plays very important role in the AFM because we have to detect van der Waals interactions which are taking place between tip and sample surface. The diagram is like this. So this is a sample which we want to characterize, and this is tip, or you can say the probe. The tip is very fine here. Now van der Waals interactions are taking place between this tip and the sample surface. This gap is very small. So if in this diagram this gap is like significant gap, but practically this gap is very small. It is of the order of few angstroms. Now this tip is connected to a cantilever. So what is the purpose of this cantilever? So depending on the strength of van der Waals interactions and depending on the type of van der Waals interactions, the tip can go downward or upward, and that movement is detected with the help of this cantilever. So this cantilever have to bend in the upward direction or downward direction depending on the strength of the van der Waals interactions here. Now the material which is used to fabricate this cantilever is silicone, because what we need a very good mechanical properties in case of this cantilever material. Before moving further, let's have more discussion about the van der Waals interactions. You have studied in your lower classes about the van der Waals interactions. So when we talk about van der Waals interactions, this kind of graph comes in our mind. So here on the x-axis there is distance between two bodies. So this is body A and this is body B. So this is the gap between these two bodies, and if these two bodies comes close to each other, then they start feeling van der Waals interactions. So on x-axis is the gap between these two bodies, and on y-axis there is van der Waals forces. So if the van der Waals forces are positive van der Waals forces, it means the force between these two bodies is a repulsive force. So these bodies will be repelled away from each other like this. Now if we are here in this part, means if the van der Waals forces are negative, it means they are attractive forces. Attractive forces means these bodies will be attracted towards each other, and you know whether the van der Waals forces are attractive or repulsive, it depends on the distance between these two bodies. So when we bring these two bodies together, the van der Waals forces varies like this. You know, when the gap is significant, at that time there are attractive forces, these two bodies attract each other. But when the gap between these two bodies becomes very small, then the attractive forces, their strength starts decreasing, and at a particular distance repulsive forces starts existing between the bodies, right? Now you see, when the two bodies, in the present case of atomic force microscope, these two bodies are tip and the sample. So when these two bodies are very close to each other, for example, so this horizontal position is the actual position of the cantilever. So when this tip is very close to the sample surface, and the gap between the tip and sample surface is so small that we can consider that repulsive forces are taking place between these two. Now because of the repulsive forces, this cantilever is a flexible material, and it's a flexible structure actually, so that will be repelled in the upward direction like this, and delta Z is the amount of vertical deflection. So the amount of or the magnitude of delta Z depends on the strength of van der Waals interaction. Stronger the forces, more will be the delta Z. But it happens only in the case when the separation between the tip and sample surface is very small as compared to this gap, right? Now if the distance between tip and sample surface is large, you can see here this case, this horizontal position is the normal position of the cantilever, and now you can see the gap between this tip and this sample surface, this gap is large as compared to this previous case. So it means as the gap is large, so the attractive forces are taking place between the tip and sample surface. Now because of the attractive forces, this cantilever, which is a flexible structure, that will bend in the downward direction. And how much bending is there as compared to its initial position, that is delta Z. Again, how strong these forces are, these attractive forces, they will decide how much is delta Z. One more thing, so when the gap between this tip and sample surface is small, is very small, repulsive forces are taking place, and that mode is known as the contact mode. So you can see here, even in the contact mode, the tip is not touching the sample surface. Physically they are not in contact with each other. Only thing is that this gap is very small, and since the gap is very small, I am talking about this gap is very small, so we consider this mode almost as a contact mode. And when we are working with this particular situation, when the attractive forces are taking place, in this particular situation we say that this is non-contact mode. Because the separation between tip and sample surface is large as compared to this particular case of the contact mode. So basically we have two modes of operation in case of AFM. One is contact mode and second one is non-contact mode. You can see this image. This is image of a probe tip, AFM tip, attached to a cantilever. This whole part is a cantilever. This part is cantilever. I am drawing this black line here. Whole this is cantilever. So this is very flexible structure, and at the end of this cantilever, this is very sharp tip. This second figure is a close-up of the probe tip. You can see here that is more magnified as compared to the first image. So the tip is fixed at the end of cantilever. So if the cantilever material is flexible, that is more good, because more flexibility means the cantilever is more responsive to the attractive or repulsive van der Waals forces. And that flexibility, or you can say that response of cantilever, can be increased by increasing the length of cantilever, because if the length is large, then for the same strength of attractive or repulsive forces, there will be large bending in the cantilever. But remember, the material is very important, otherwise more bending may break the cantilever. So that's why you need a material which is mechanically very strong, and silicon fulfills that criteria. Now you understand the nature of van der Waals interactions between probe tip and sample surface, and you know that if the gap is very small, then upward bending takes place because repulsive forces start existing between tip and sample surface. And if a gap is a little bit more as compared to that earlier case, then attractive forces starts existing, and the cantilever bend in the downward direction. So that bending of cantilever, now you understand. So what we have to do now, we have to develop a detection mechanism which can detect this upward and downward bending of cantilever, and for that purpose we need optical method. So let's see how that detection is implemented. So that detection is implemented like this. So in this figure, if you see this cantilever, this probe tip and this sample, all these are same as before. So what we have added is this optical setup here. The purpose of this optical setup is to detect the deflections in the cantilever. So what is there in this detection mechanism? There is a laser diode. That laser diode generates light in the form of a fine beam. That light falls on the back of cantilever, and it is the location of this point where this light falls is exactly behind the probe tip, because that will give us more sensitivity, and this light is reflected, and this reflected light reaches to a detector. But you see here there is small coating here on the back of this cantilever. The purpose of this coating, you can see here this coating, this is gold coating. Purpose of this gold coating is to improve the reflectivity, so that most of the laser light which falls here, that is reflected towards the detector. Now detector is a special kind of detector. So the light falls here on the detector, and this detector generates an electrical signal or electronic signal in response to this light, right? But this detector is special in the sense that it is a positions detector. So it detects not only the amount of light which is falling on it, rather it also detects the position of light. So whether the light falls on in the upper half here or here, so this position will decide how much electrical signal will be produced at the output of this position detector, right? In the next slide you will see that how this position sensitive detection is useful in the detection of this mechanism, right? Now you can see here in this diagram there are three different situations. If you talk about this first situation, in the beginning we are talking about this top graph, this top image. So this cantilever is there, and the signal this sample here is a flat sample. So there are no hills or valley, it's a smooth surface. So you can say that if a surface is smooth, the cantilever is in its mean position. So whatever light is coming from laser, that is reflected by this gold coating on the back side, and this reflected light is going on the detector. Now you can see this is a position sensitive detector, as we discussed in the last slide also. Sometimes it is also known as PSD in the short. Now you see whatever light is falling on the detector, that light is exactly in the center of this detector. There are two lines here, one is vertical line and one is horizontal line. So that way this detector can be considered as a four quadrant detector. This is A, this is B, C and D. But as far as the discussion about AFM is concerned, we can consider it in two parts. Means one part is upper half and one part is lower half. So upper half suppose is A, and then this lower half is, suppose it's B. Now the upper half will produce one electrical signal in response to the amount of light falling on it, and this lower half B will also produce a electronic or electrical signal in response to the amount of light falling on it. So when this cantilever is in its mean position, at that time this light is falling in the center. So the intensity or the amount of light which is falling on the upper half, or means in the part A, is exactly equal to the amount of light falling on B part, right? So if we talk about the magnitude of the signal which is produced by part A, upper part A, and magnitude of signal produced by part B, that magnitude is equal, right? So the magnitude of electronic signal or electrical signal by upper half and by lower half is equal. So the net signal which is produced at the output is 0, right? But what happens when there is downward bending? So that downward bending case is indicated by this part, right? So here suppose there is a valley here, and because of this valley, when it is scanning this sample surface, now when it approaches this valley, there is downward bending in the cantilever, and because of that downward bending, what will happen? The light which is coming from laser, that light still is reflected back, but when this light reaches to the detector, so the major part of this light is reaching to the lower half and less part is reaching to the upper half. Now again, if we talk about the magnitude of electrical signal produced by upper half and magnitude of signal produced by lower half, I am writing it like this, then you will see that this A have less output as compared to B, because the most of the light is falling on the lower half, so lower half will produce more signal as compared to upper half. So at the output you will get some signal, net signal, which is difference of the upper half signal and lower half signal. In the earlier case, when there was no such deflection, the net signal was 0, but in this particular case the output is more towards the B side, right? And you can say that it's more negative if you consider that whatever signal is produced by lower half, that is negative, and whatever signal is produced by the upper half, that is positive. So now here you have to talk about A minus B. So the magnitude of the output signal is the magnitude of A minus magnitude of B. So here B dominates, the B dominates, so you are getting some negative signal, right? And how much is the strength of this signal, that depends how lower side movement is there in case of this light. So if it is moving more and more lower side, so more and more light is falling on the lower half, and the strength of B is increasing as compared to A, right? So the magnitude of this negative signal will be big, but how big it is, that depends on the amount of downward deflection. In the same way, if you get this kind of situation when this tip is passing over a hilly portion, then there will be vertical, so you can say the upward deflection in the cantilever, because when it reaches to this kind of hill, the gap between tip and sample surface decreases, and so it's almost very small gap, so repulsive forces will be there, and because of that there will be upward bending, and since there is upward bending, you can see here, so the light is coming from laser source and it is reflected back towards the detector, but majority part of this reflected light is falling on the upper half. If we talk about the signal which is produced by upper half, suppose this magnitude of that signal is A, and the magnitude of signal produced by the lower half is B. So you can see clearly that the magnitude of the electrical signal which is produced by upper half is greater than the magnitude of signal produced by the lower half. So in this case, if you get the net output signal, which is difference of signal produced by upper half and signal produced by lower half, you will get certainly some positive value, right? But what is the actual magnitude of this positive value, that will depend on the amount of vertical deflection in this, and the amount of vertical deflection will depend on the size of this feature, right? So that way, whatever features are present on the sample surface, whether there is a valley and how deep is that valley, or whether there is a hill, or how up or how high is that hill, that will decide how much vertical deflection is there, and that deflection is converted into a electrical signal with the help of this optical detection mechanism, which is implemented with the help of this laser diode, this reflective coating on the back side of cantilever, and this detector, which is position sensitive detector. Remember, in all the three cases, whole light is falling on these detectors. If these detectors were normal detector, they would give you a constant amount of output irrespective of the sample features, because in all the three cases whole light is entering into the detector, so the output would remain same. But since they are position sensitive detector, so the output depends on the position of the light where this light is falling inside the detector, right? Now move further. So now you understand the working or the working principle of AFM. You know the detection mechanism, optical detection mechanism, where that van der Waals interactions with the help of cantilever are converted into the electrical signal, right? Now the next task is to understand the block diagram of atomic force microscope. If you understand the block diagram of scanning probe microscopes in general, the block diagram of AFM is not that much different. So this is the block diagram. So you can see here, this is sample holder, and the sample is placed on this sample holder, and this is cantilever here. This, at the end of this cantilever there is tip, and this is detection mechanism. Laser diode is there and a position detector is there. Now whole this detection mechanism is detecting these van der Waals interactions and converting into electronic signal. That electronic signal is moving through these connecting wires, and then it is going to the control electronics, and all this control electronics is controlled by this computer. Now you know that this is a scanning probe microscope, so this probe have to scan the sample surface. From earlier video lectures, I think you already are aware that that scanning can be implemented with the help of probe or with the help of sample holder, or with the help of sample, you can say. So in this particular diagram, this scanning is scanning by sample. So this scanning you are doing with the help of sample scanning. This is sample scanning. So you can see here in this diagram that the X scan lines and Y scan lines, they are connected to the sample holder. You can see here the control electronics is sending some X scan lines and Y scan lines, right? Now just like in case of scanning tunneling microscope, you know, there was a feedback mechanism, and that feedback mechanism was used to control the vertical movement of the probe tip. So here also there is a feedback mechanism. Now since scanning is by the sample scanning, so not only the XY scanning but the Y vertical scanning is also performed by the sample holder. And this mechanical means this Z movement is necessary. Just like in STM, you know that if we maintain a constant gap between the tip and sample surface, that gives us the maximum resolution. So here also our purpose is to maintain a fixed gap between the tip and the sample surface, and in order to ensure that we try to move the sample holder up and down depending upon the gap between tip and sample surface. So if gap is increasing, then we try to move this sample holder in the upward direction, and if gap decreases, we try to move the sample towards the lower side. That is necessary because that vertical deflection, if it is taking too much into the cantilever, that the movement into the cantilever will produce noise, because you know, that's why we prefer scanning by sample, because scanning by sample reduces the possibility of noise into the system, right? So that vertical, not only X Y movement but Z movement is also implemented here to the sample holder, and for that this feedback network is there. That feedback network will decide how much responsive this vertical movement setup will be there. So the signal which is generated from this detector, that signal is used to produce this feedback signal, right? And the feedback factor will decide how quickly this holder will move in the up direction or in the y direction. But we discussed in case of STM also that if this vertical movement is very quick, then we may miss some resolution. So we don't want this feedback factor to be very high. We just need a optimized value of feedback factor so that we can get the vertical movement without affecting the resolution into the system. Now we understand the block diagram. So we have to discuss the modes of operation of AFM. So from earlier slides also you have seen that there are two modes, one is contact mode and one is non-contact mode. And contact mode doesn't mean that the sample and the probe tip are exactly in contact. Still in the contact mode also there is a very small separation between them. The advantage if we talk about the contact mode is that we get very high resolution, right? Because the tip is very close to the sample surface, so small change in the separation or any small feature which is present on the sample surface, that will have a significant change in the strength of van der Waals forces, and you can say that there will be a large fluctuations or bendings in the cantilever. So that's why we can say that the better resolution is possible in case of contact mode system. The contact mode system have some disadvantages also. For example, the lateral forces. What are these lateral forces? Actually, this is cantilever and this is tip and this is sample. So when this tip or the sample is moving, and if the tip is very close to this sample, what happens? These lateral movements, XY movements in the probe, they can damage the sample if the sample is soft or a fragile sample, right? So it can introduce some scratches into the sample. Suppose you have a thin film coated on some substrate and the film material is very soft material and you are doing this AFM scanning in contact mode. Since the gap between tip and this film is very small, so there are chances that this lateral movement of tip will produce some scratches on the material or it will remove material from that part. So that is one disadvantage of this contact mode. The second disadvantage is that the tip can be contaminated also, because I told you since this tip is very close to sample and if there is any dust particle or there is any soft material that may get attached to the tip, and once it is attached it may remain attached to the tip forever, right? So that way the tip is contaminated. So when we start scanning this when we start scanning other sample or the same sample at other location with the same tip, then the whatever contaminate or dust particle or any particle which is attached to the tip, that will stay there and that will affect the resolution at that new location. So you can see here the pollution of tip up to contact with the soft sample. So this is cantilever here and this is tip here. So all this you can see this is tip here, and this image is taken with the help of scanning electron microscope SEM. It's high resolution microscope actually, FESEM, and you can see this piece, this part, right? All this is some contaminated thing or some particle or some dust which is attached to this tip, and if that kind of thing happens, you can imagine what will happen if we use the same tip to scan another sample, right? So that thing we have to avoid, and these kind of problems are very common if we use contact mode for scanning the sample in the AFM. Now if you talk about non-contact mode, so you know in case of non-contact mode, still the gap is very small, few angstrom, but this gap is little bit higher as compared to the contact mode. Now if you talk about the advantages, lower forces and less damage to the soft sample. So it's obvious because already we have discussed the problems of contact mode in case of soft samples. So in non-contact mode the gap is little bit higher, so there will be less damage, or you can say less lateral forces are there. Now lateral forces are virtually eliminated, so there is no scrapping. So not only the contamination issue is solved, but scraping or scratching of the sample will also not take place. But it has a disadvantage also. Resolution is limited by tip sample separation. So as compared to contact mode, the gap between the tip and the sample is little bit higher, and because of that higher gap, the interactions are weak, and because of weak interactions there are less bending in the cantilever, and that way you can say that the resolution, vertical resolution especially, that will be compromised. So that is the disadvantage of non-contact mode AFM. Now let's talk about the factors which decide the resolution of AFM. You know that these kind of equipments we use because they offer us very high resolution. So the resolution in case of AFM of course depends on the tip radius. So if you want to achieve very high resolution or atomic resolution, tip should be very sharp as possible, and the best tip is the tip where at the end of the tip, at the final tip position, there is only a single atom, right? So how that helps in improving the resolution, that is already discussed in case of scanning tunneling microscope. So in case of AFM also, the tip should be as sharp as possible for achieving the highest resolution. The second factor is the elasticity of the cantilever. So more elastic is the cantilever, more resolution will be there, because if we compare two cantilevers with different elastic properties, then what will happen, for the same amount of van der Waals forces, one cantilever will bend more as compared to other cantilever, which is more elastic, that will bend more, and that more bending is useful because that more bending is more easy to detect. It means the smallest features which are present on the sample surface, they can be detected more easily if the cantilever material is highly elastic material. So that way the elasticity of cantilever is very useful in improving the resolution of the AFM. Third important factor is sensitivity of the laser detection. So that laser detection system should be as sensitive as possible. For example, in case of detection side, if we see the smallest change in the vertical position of the light which is falling on the detector. So if the sensor is able to detect that smallest change, that's more good. So it means the smallest variation which are present in on the sample surface, they can be recorded more easily if the optical detection system is very sensitive. And the more important thing is the mechanical and electronic noise. So the entire system should be free from any kind of mechanical and electronic noise. Mechanical noise means, suppose your AFM setup is placed on some table, you are working there, and someone near you, maybe in the same room or in the same building, is doing something, and because of that mechanical vibrations are generated, then through the floor, through the walls, through the table, and through all the solid things which are available there. So mechanical noise will be transported to the table where you are working, and that those vibrations will go to your AFM setup also, and those vibrations will affect the cantilever also. So if those vibrations are able to reach to the cantilever, there will be vertical deflections, and your setup will detect those deflections, because your setup don't know this deflection is because of sample or because of mechanical noise which is taking place in your surrounding, right? So that kind of thing have to be avoided. So the table which you use for studying the solid samples with the help of AFM, so those tables should be you can say the vibration free tables, and you should avoid any kind of mechanical disturbances or movements in the surrounding area, if possible within that building also. In the same way, not only the mechanical but the electronic noise which is present in the system, that also have to be avoided, because this AFM is very sensitive equipment, and we have to detect very small vibrations in the cantilever, and whatever electronic signal is generated because of those small vibrations, that signal is also very small. So if your entire system is noisy system, so your signal will be lost within that noise, right? So You have to eliminate the noise. That is highly important, because what you are going to detect is very small electronic signal, right? So if you focus on these things, it is possible to increase the resolution of AFM, and theoretically it's possible to achieve atomic resolution, but whether you will be able to reach to that atomic resolution or not, that depends on the skill of the person who is using the atomic force microscope, right? So now I will show you some images which you can which are obtained from the atomic force microscope. Now this first sample is the surface of natural rubber, you can see, and the scan area is 20 micrometer by 20 micrometer. So this one side, this whole side, this is 20 micrometer, right? And in the same way, the second dimension is also 20 micrometer. So the features which are present on the surface of natural rubber, they are clearly visible here. Now you can see this second sample. This is silicon carbide sample. Scan area is 30 micron by 30 micron. So whole this is 30 micron, and whole this part is also 30 micron, right? So the surface is visible here like this. Now you will see some more interesting, beautiful pictures. These are cadmium sulfide nanoparticles, and if these nanoparticles are arranged on a surface, and if we scan that surface with the help of AFM, you can see here the sharp features. All the particles are clearly visible. So if you scan, or if you study this kind of arrangement with the help of scanning electron microscope, even the electron microscopes may not give you this kind of fine image. That's why we say that the resolution, the very high resolution, is possible in case of atomic force microscope. This is the surface of epitaxial silicon. You know that in case of integrated circuits, we work with the silicon substrate, but all the devices are normally fabricated in a epitaxial layer. So if you deposit a epitaxial layer, that is very pure film and defect free film. So what you expect, that the surface is ultra smooth surface. I'm talking about the surface of epitaxial layer. But even if you scan that ultra smooth surface with the help of AFM, you can see that the scan area is 6 micron by 6 micron. So whole this is 6 micron, right? So the 6 micron, the thickness of your hair is about 100 micrometer. So now you can imagine how small this dimension is, and you can see some features here, right? All these features are actually the arrangement of silicon atoms. So now you can imagine that how good this technique is, because that can give you the arrangement, the idea about the arrangement of atoms in a ultra smooth surface also, right? So I think now you are in the position to appreciate the advantages or the benefits of atomic force microscope. So thanks for watching this video. If you have any question and any doubt, you can discuss with me during the interactive sessions. Thank you very much. Thank you.